the agenda?
Sure. Why don't we start with a roll call of the board, just to
Sure.
confirm quorum? Okay. Danielle Spicer, Chair.
Here?
Eric Nyland.
Here.
Mark Sprague.
Here.
And Peter Driscoll.
Present.
Okay. It's 7:02, and we're going to start with Bob Pace, Keys Farm subdivision. Bob, if you wouldn't mind providing an update on the following items, and I'll let you kind of, if you want to start with just them in order, or however you want to best give us an update.
Let's talk about the road. This is what I know, and Erica, you know, is okay on this stuff. You actually met with Jamie, excuse me, while I was away. The rims and the manholes have been raised.
Do you want me to do this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't know you were here, Jamie. Go ahead.
Yeah. So all the rims except for 4 of the manhole covers are raised. We couldn't raise those the same days we raised everything else because it would have people, you know, if a fire truck needed to go up down the street, they're so close to the catch basins that we wouldn't be able to do that. So we are doing that tomorrow afternoon, raising those last 5. So that's that. The repairs that Mitch wanted to do on the berm and the areas that we marked out, those were cut out and those were finished up today. So that's for the road. We were going to pave tomorrow, but we weren't aware. We forgot that it was Veteran Day, so we're not paving tomorrow. Weather dependent, we're paving on Friday. But I told them as we got close to the date that I would let Steve know. That way there, he could have somebody out there, but we just don't know with this little bit of rain coming. Driveway 6, we're going to put a little bit of mix down to make the water run out of the driveway and down the road. So all that water will go down the road now. Asphalt berms on 3, 4, and 5. We were there today. We did the berm on 3. 5 didn't want to have it. I don't think she needed it. She kind of took care of her own water issue on her own when she had her yard landscaped. We were going to do 4. They had an issue with it. They talked with Erica. Maybe Erica can chime in on that one.
Sure. So I did receive a call from the lot owner at lot 4, and she had concerns with the width of her driveway. Now, Jamie, I don't know what type of berm you were proposing to install. I don't know if it was 6 inches wide. I don't know if it was 12 inches wide, but her concern was that the width of the berm would prevent emergency access up her driveway. So she was going to contact the fire department regarding that matter.
Okay, yeah, we were always going to use the same exact berm that we had done on the road, so we could blend it right in at the ends of the driveway.
Okay, so that was the 1 foot width asphalt.
Yep, 6 inch tall.
Okay.
Yep, just the typical Cape Cod berm.
My question, Jamie. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to follow up with that. So who was supposed to contact the fire department just to confirm a minimum width?
The lot owner was going to contact the fire department, and then I also wanted to follow up with them as well. I called but couldn't get a hold of the chief. I did get an email from him, so we emailed back and forth a little bit. So at this point, I guess he and I are both concerned, wondering the driveway that was installed, what the width of that was, because it was supposed to be 12 feet per the plan submitted as part of the driveway application, But in speaking with the lot owner, it sounds like that is not the case. So I didn't know if Bob or Jamie could provide some information on that.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Erica, this is Jason Hutchins from Lot 4. The driveway on average is 10 feet wide. It's a little wider at the base, and then once the driveway expands to go up to the 2 bays, it widens pretty, but turn around at the top. But the consistent length the whole way up the hill is 10 feet wide. So our concern is if you take a foot, the berm people said they need a foot for the berm to sit on. It'd bring our driveway down to about 9 feet on average going up that line. And the fire department said it needs to be 12. Sorry, 12 after the berm is installed. They need to maintain 12 feet of access at all times.
So I guess we're not putting the berm on there. Okay, we can do it at the bottom, okay, which we originally talked about. And that should help a little bit as well.
So I guess then if the swale is going to be, the riprap swale is going to be maintained, I know there was concerns with some of the erosion along there a little bit. If there's no berm installed, is there anything that needs to be modified for that, or is that?
Well, I think there's a lot of grass growing there now, okay, and you know, we can put a little berm in the right of way there. Okay, that'll be plenty wide. Okay, that's all I originally was planning to do anyway.
Danielle, I think also we can sort of wait and see what happens in the spring. I do have concerns that when they take the temporary wattles away, that any additional runoff that gets to that swale, you know, we just want to make sure that it's not causing erosion within the road right of way. So that's something we'll want to just kind of keep on top of and keep observing. And if it continues to happen, then I would say some corrective action will be needed in the swale or that small detention area to stop that.
All right. I mean, I guess that's my concern as well, is I just want to make sure I know that you're saying that grass is growing, and that was obviously the intent from the beginning, but there's a fair amount of runoff that comes down that driveway just due to the steep slope. So maybe it's okay just to wait and see in the spring. I would keep the straw wattles there along there until the springtime so that they're helping with some of that control, and you know, we can maybe assess this area in the spring to see if additional corrective action items need to kind of be done.
So
Agreed.
Erica, the driveway permit specifies 12 feet the entire length.
It does. I went back and looked in Viewpoint and it did specify 12 feet.
Okay. And the homeowner is saying it's only 10?
Correct. I haven't gone out
Okay.
and measured myself,
Okay.
but I could certainly do that next week.
Yeah, or Bob or
Yeah.
Ken could do that and verify that it was installed to plan.
We also noticed too that based on the drawings, because this is Liz Hutchins, by the way, from Lot 4. We were not really aware that there were specifically driveway plans until the fire department brought that to our attention. So when we looked at them, it looks like the driveway isn't actually even in the correct location, because you'll notice that our neighbor on Lot 5 had her lot surveyed before she did a lot of work on it. And our driveway is like almost right on her lot line. And according to the plans, we should be 10 feet away from that lot line. So it looks like our driveway is really just generally not even in the correct spot, which I find kind of odd. And I guess I don't know if that's normal for driveways to just go wherever, even though you have a specific plan in place. But we'd be interested to kind of get some feedback on that as well.
Danielle, what I can offer to that question is no, it should be per the plan. Driveways shouldn't be just put anywhere. They should be installed per the plan. What I don't know is because DPW did do a lot of interactions with Bob and the contractor regarding the runoff from the driveways and how it would be handled. That I don't know for that particular lot if the driveway location ended up getting tweaked or moved to allow for that swale. I'm not sure. I don't know if Bob can speak to that. I'll have to go back through all of what I have on file for that particular location to see if any other plans were submitted after the initial plan.
I remember that we moved the driveway slightly and Joe was fine with that. Okay, we wanted to make room for the swales and stuff like that. Okay, which we wanted to minimize the impact there. So, and if it moved even 10 feet, that's really insignificant. Okay, for a driveway.
So would those revised plans have needed to go on record with the fire department as the original plans would have?
No, it's not required.
So what typically happens is we have an online permitting system for building and driveway permit applications. And when site plans are updated, typically then the updated plan is then uploaded to that system so that any department could go in and take a look at it. And that's the part that I'm not clear on. I don't know if Joe had requested new plans, if this was something discussed in the field and sort of a field change. I just don't know. So I'd have to go back and look.
Okay, that's fine. The
I'm
only
almost
reason I ask is because when I had spoken with the fire department, he had specifically said that was the plan they had on file. So that's just why I'm wondering. But if it did move, if we could get record of that, that would be helpful for us to have in the future as well.
Certainly, I'll let you know what I find.
Yeah, I think that would be
Jamie.
good just for us to kind of close the loop with any of that outstanding items that are potentially different from what was approved. So getting back to, I guess we can follow up maybe with this driveway, once additional information is found from you, Erica, maybe at another meeting, just because I do want to just come back to once we can kind of confirm what the existing width is. I know, thank you, Liz, for letting, or it might have been your husband that had mentioned it was 10 feet wide. But if we can, Erica, just also confirm that with regard to it needing to be 12 feet wide. I'm just wondering is there a something that needs to be done because of that?
I think what I'll do is I'll circle back. I really need to get on a phone call with our chief of, the fire chief, and I can discuss that with him, what he, if there's some sort of action that needs to be taken because it doesn't meet the 12 feet, or if the 10 feet satisfies their requirements for safety or emergency access.
Yeah,
So,
because I think that's something that's still a little bit outstanding that we need to kind of follow up and get something on record because of that. So with regard to the driveway for lot 4, I think we're going to continue that just for right now. And we'll follow up with those items at a later date because there's a few outstanding things there. I did want to just touch briefly, Jamie, I heard you mention that for lot 6 driveway, you were looking to revise the paving just a little bit there to address the ponding and that issue. In order to do that, I think this was another one of those instances where, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way the driveway was then done, and I think there was a swale that was then potentially removed, that the driveway was then going into. So it created kind of this little localized ponding that can easily be fixed if we allow runoff from the driveway to go into the road. This was not one of the lots we had approved at one of the previous meetings where we felt it was okay to do this, but it seems like it can be minimally addressed to get rid of the ponding by allowing that. But I think a motion needs to be made since this wasn't one of the original lots. So similar to the other lots that we allowed runoff from the driveways to go onto the roadway, this would be another motion, I believe, to allow him to just be able to get rid of that ponding, what it's doing is it's allowing the runoff from the road to, from the driveway to go into the road. Did I summarize that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, so
I appreciate it.
no, that's fine. I just want to make sure that this is a motion that the board would have to make to allow this to be done. It seems to me like it's the simplest way to remove or to address the small little ponding. I know that there were some pictures that were submitted kind of showing in that corner where the ponding is. It's not much, but if the paving can just be filled a little bit there to provide a smoother transition to allow that runoff so it doesn't pond, I think that
Yeah, we're just going to shim the driveway a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
I said a lot of 99% of these driveways were cutting back between 3 feet and 4 feet when we paved the roadway to make the transition correctly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Because we have to put 2 inches of mixed. I don't remember if it's 2 or 2.5. I can't think off the top of my head. We're going to cut back the driveways and blend the driveways right into the road.
Yeah, so there's a smooth transition, sure.
Yep.
So is the board have any discussions on this lot 6, or are you guys amenable to putting forth a motion to allow this?
Erica, do we have a DPW director yet?
We do. I believe he starts next Monday.
Okay.
Does the board, would it be helpful if I show the pictures of the driveway and the ponding that is occurring, and you'll be able to see it's relatively minor, if that's helpful. If not, I don't have to pull it up.
And they were part of our packet, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah. So I think if the board doesn't put forth a motion, though, there's going to need to be some redesigning in that area for a swale to prevent the ponding from happening there. So I don't know if the board is, if someone on the board is willing to put forth a motion or wants to discuss it more.
And I have the same concerns I had last time on it, so.
Yeah, I agree with Mark still. You know, I mean, there's a reason we don't allow runoff into the road. And, you know, just because this happens to be a subdivision, you know, we should make sure that that's okay, right? My concern would be like, you get runoff, you get ice in the winter or something like that, depending on the nature of the runoff. I don't know.
Well, I think right now the concern is the way if it's left like this, you're going to have absolutely icing at this corner. So when we talked about this before, you know, it's an interpretation of the bylaw that we had talked about, and it can kind of go one way or another. Previously, it obviously had been determined that runoff from driveways needed to be treated before going into the roadway, even though their whole stormwater system has been sized appropriately to include driveways. So I guess I would ask if no one from the board has put forth this motion, what needs to be done in this area to alleviate the ponding. And I thought the residents of lot 6 didn't want additional swales being done along there, but I could be wrong on that. So I would just
Hi,
ask.
this is Caroline. I am the owner of lot 6. Yeah,
Hi.
the issue is not major. So, I mean, we thought just by doing what Jamie proposed would work. What I'm concerned is why was it accepted for 3, 4, 5 and wouldn't be for 6 in order to water to run down at the last meeting? It should be all or nothing, I guess.
We just
Yeah,
didn't ask for it.
I think we didn't understand that there was an issue at lot 6, so at that point it was just an oversight to not include that. But unfortunately, in order for lot 6 to be included, it needs to be a motion from the board.
Erica, can you show some of the pictures?
Yeah. I was
Sure.
just gonna ask that.
It'll take just 1 second to find them, but I will pull them up.
I don't think it's going to be a significant amount of water either, though.
I
No,
think you'll
I
see
think-
that.
And the first catch basin is about 15 feet from the driveway, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, Danielle, can you see that?
Yes.
So so essentially the runoff comes down and then it ponds here at the end of lot 6.
So where's it supposed to? It's supposed to run along the gutter, basically along the berm.
No, initially there was a swale that was installed, like a stone riprap swale that was installed along the side. And it was supposed to be pitched and drained to that swale. According to the lot owner, they didn't believe that it worked, so they had removed it. So now we're having this ponding at the end of the driveway.
Yeah, the swell was much higher than that ponding there, and the water was just never going that way. That we have plenty of picture when the rock is still there and that ponding was still happening. The swell was much higher than that little spot there.
So water's not crossing the road, it's staying on the
There's a
side.
better one.
Yeah, it's just ponding in that one corner. So by just filling in a little bit and making a smooth transition, instead of ponding it, it would just, yes, exactly where her mouth is, it would continue down the gutter line to the catch basin.
And it's not a lot of water, it's just a little bit.
I guess it would be interesting to see in a bigger rainstorm. I think one of the participants in this meeting commented that there's a big rainstorm coming. Could we maybe get some pictures at the next big rainstorm to see how far out
Well,
that goes?
I think the issue is they're going to be paving potentially this Friday. So if they're going to be paving, they need to do it before
True. Yeah,
they
true.
do that.
We may have picture from previous big storm. I mean, it was never much more than that. It's not a major issue,
It
but
would be. It's just that it fades over time.
yeah, it just resolves over
But
time.
it's gonna ice up over the winter.
Yeah.
The snow is gonna melt. There.
Yeah, and that's why we just want a little better pitching, so maybe it can go down a little better.
Yeah, I mean, drainage wise, when you look at roadway drainage, to get it into the road where there's a curb and gutter system is the best way, because that's going to get it the quickest to a structure that's going to then take care of it. If there was a swale that was there, I mean, that would be another way. But right now, there's currently ponding there. The riprap swale has been removed, and it's not a great condition right now going into winter. We did previously allow runoff from 3 other driveways in the subdivision to kind of fix, knowing that the stormwater system within the roadway was sized for these driveways to go in there. So it's appropriate to allow this one to go as well, but that is up to the board to accept.
Then what's the motion that needs to be made? Exactly.
To allow runoff from the lot 6 driveway to go into the road.
And so on 3, 4, and 5, was it similar to this, or was it more significant? Or?
Is it?
It was
I think
more
it's actually more
significant.
significant. Yeah. This is a much smaller issue.
And Erica, what's your take is that this isn't a major issue?
Yeah, my take is that this is a relatively minor issue in regards to the amount of runoff getting into the road. to me, it makes complete sense to allow it to drain to the road. Otherwise, we're actually going to be creating the icing that we're concerned about by leaving it. So this is a prime example of where I really do think that the board should allow it.
Yeah.
To go to the
All right,
road.
well, I'll make a motion to allow the runoff from the driveway on lot 6 to run to the road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, then Erica, do you want to do a roll call for those?
Yes.
approval?
All in favor, Danielle Spicer, Chair.
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Mark Sprague,
No.
Peter Driscoll,
No.
and James Barr entered the meeting. So James Barr.
Aye.
All right, so the motion passes.
Okay. And then
Jamie?
Erica, if,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, Bob. I was just going to touch
I-
base on the erosion controls, but
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask him to opine on that.
On
okay,
what?
so
On the corrective actions taken on 1, 2, and 4.
The swale,
Yeah.
the
so I was
swales.
going to.
Wait, we still have pending stuff that needs to be done though on our back hill for that 1, 4, and 2 lot issue. We have matting that was supposed to be put down that wasn't put
No,
down.
that's what we're going to
Oh,
jump
okay.
to next is discussion of the erosion and sediment controls. So
Sorry.
if that's okay, Jamie, can you give a summary of what has been done with regard to the corrective action items for the erosion and sediment controls and what may still be left to be done?
Yeah, so we put the swale in up on 4. We put the swale down on 2, and we installed the swale on 1. We cleaned out everything. Everything is raked out on 2. I believe everything is raked out on 1. It's tough. My employees were called names by lot 4, so they refused to go back up on that lot. So I'm just trying to figure out how to get that finished up.
Okay.
What still needs to be done on lot 4?
The jute netting and the seating. All the wattles are in. Everything is complete besides the jute netting and the seating on lot 4.
We also have a rock wall that was installed in front of the level spreader that's in the woods. So I think that needs to be removed. And in my opinion, I mean, I'm not a civil engineer, but the level doesn't look level. So I would like to make sure that somebody's at least reviewed that and can approve it from a engineering perspective.
Sure, I believe Niche will be going out. Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, Niche will be going out on site to look at actually all of these erosion sediment controls that were approved on the latest plan to review and make sure they were kind of installed correctly. I do believe some of the level spreaders were also supposed to have some sort of a little bit of a pitch to them though. So while they may be level kind of coming one way, they were supposed to have a pitch, I think, going another way to allow kind of a riprap swale within it. So that may be why it doesn't look 100% level. I'm not sure exactly where you're referring to, but we will have Niche out there to review the installation against the plan and to let us know if there's anything that
It was installed with a laser.
isn't correct. Okay.
When they're out there Friday.
Yeah,
When they're out there,
it's out there on Friday as well.
when they're out there Friday, okay, looking at the hot top, they could certainly look at those.
Yes, if you're paving on Friday, we can make sure,
Right.
and Niche will be out there, we can have them review the erosion sediment controls. Will you be able to have the jute netting, I guess, installed and the seating for lot 4 by Friday, or will that be, I guess, when are you anticipating a schedule for that?
I'm trying to get some other guys over there right now. The guys who were over there this past week won't go back up on that property.
Oh my God, Jamie.
Jamie, I was out there with Liz every time and
Yeah, she didn't call my guys crackheads.
No.
no, and this is not the forum to get into that, but
I mean, I'm not trying to get into anything. I just think it was ridiculous and uncalled for. Her erratic behavior has been a problem the whole time. I mean, we even had to have the police come and talk to her for harassing our guys earlier on in the job.
I can't even.
Well, let's try to, if you can let us know when your schedule is to get someone out there for the jute netting and seeding, we'll make sure that Niche is out there so that they can review it. And they'll obviously, Bob, if you're paving on Friday, they hopefully will be out there as well to review the asphalt as well. Before I go on to the berms, which is another item I just wanted to talk about, are there any other erosion sediment control items we need to touch base with Erica, or is that?
Not at present. I think, obviously prior to road acceptance in the spring, we'll need to revisit and make sure that any outstanding erosion control items are addressed. So,
okay. So the next item I just wanted to ask, I know you guys had talked about, you replaced a lot of the existing berm that needed to be replaced, but there's some material and stuff like that behind the berm. So just wanted to verify that you guys would be removing all that so it can be loamed and seeded right up to the edge of the berm.
What are you
It's got to
saying?
be backed up. Okay, the curb's got to be backed up, Jamie. That's all.
Yeah, we're backing up. We finished repairing all the areas that we got cut out. But
Okay, I was only there this morning.
So I'm sure tomorrow or the next day they'll be finishing backing up the rest. Eric had a concern with some of the extra asphalt behind it, which the guys are going to remove as they go. And
that's what I was referring to.
And we'll back it all up. Yeah.
So I do have, I took a drive through there today. And when we were working through all of this with Andy on CME, we made, there were whole sections of berm that we had to remove, had him remove instead of putting in little patches all through the place. And what's up there right now is a lot of little patches, a 2-foot patch and then 10 feet of berm, another patch and so on and so on. And we told CME he couldn't, they couldn't do that there. So I'm a little, for consistency, I think, we have an issue here, I think.
Well, this was, okay, CME was 15 years old. Okay, this is well, wait a minute.
So
this is 3 months old. Okay, and we walked through it with Niche and he directed us to do it like this.
Yes.
Okay, then we need to give Niche some better operating instructions then, because that was an issue.
That's fair.
I mean, me and Bob met Niche out on site. We asked him exactly how he wanted to do it and what they wanted to do. And he X'd out areas and he just said, cut out these areas and fix these areas. And we walked the whole site.
Okay,
And
I'm just telling you
it's in their report.
On other developments, we've required them to remove significant sections instead of having a lot of little patches like that. It looks better.
And then again, Mark,
it's
Mark, this was 3 or 4 months old.
I don't care how old it is, Bob. It's still a patch. It's still a seam in
that we were directed to do. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay. Erica, can we have a chat with Niche about what we want on berms? Or can we just remove Cape Cod berms completely from our regs?
That would probably be the best thing.
Probably. So every development has issues with them. So I know they're cheap, but they're a problem. So, but anyway, that's a separate discussion. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure to have that conversation with Niche so that way moving forward, we can be more on the same page. Yep.
Yeah. It looks like crap up there, like it is right now. Maybe it'll blend in over time, but it's not doesn't look very good.
And I guess what I was referring to is, Jamie, I think what you had said was the material behind the curb. I wanted to make sure, I think you said Erica had talked to you about that. So I just to make sure that was going to be removed.
Yep.
Okay. All
And
right.
she's
If we
more
can,
than welcome. I mean, if she wants, I mean, we can remove it all tomorrow morning, and then she or Nitch can come out and just see that it's all removed. That would make you sleep better.
That would be great, Jamie. If you do, what time do you think you'll do it? If you do it tomorrow,
Um,
or actually, I'll go out Thursday morning if that works.
well, but here's the thing. I still need time. Yeah, you know what? Thursday morning would probably be best. If you could come out like on your way
I'll
in.
come out right. Yeah, exactly. I'll stop by on my way in.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Erica, can you share the agenda again, just so I can?
Oh,
I think there were
yes.
4.
Yep.
I just want to make sure we've touched base on all 4 items. Okay, and then the only last thing, so with regard to the road construction outstanding items, Bob and Jamie, I just want to make sure you guys have the Keys Farm punch list for the road acceptance. I think there's 23 items on there.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of them are minor. Okay, so you're,
Yeah.
And I actually did go over a couple things. I'm sorry to cut you out. I went over a couple things with lot 1 this morning about the pond 2. He just had some questions. I just clarified that we're going to wait until the winter goes through, and then we're going to desilt all those ponds again and rehydroseed them.
okay.
And that's one of the punch list things. He was just asking about it, so I just let him know what we were doing. We're obviously not going to do it before the winter and then have more issues. We're going to do it first thing in the spring.
Yeah, no, I think at this point and the time frame we're in November, it probably makes sense to wait basically until the spring when you're.
Yeah,
we're fine.
better.
We're fine with that. This is Dave and Lori Coe. We're fine with that.
All right, I don't need to go through all these individually, or did anyone from the board have any comments or questions on this punch list? You know, I think they're aware of majority of the items, but just wanted to see if there were any last minute questions on them. All right, with that, I think the only caveat I would say is, Erica, if you can just let us know, or Bob, you know, that you're definitely gonna, and I'm assuming you'll probably wait until maybe Thursday, but that paving will happen on Friday. The only question we'd want is we'd want an update, obviously, if paving can't happen on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty weather dependent right now, so I'll know
Sure.
better at
Yeah.
the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay.
And I have the mix design for niche, and I have the amount of tack that will be going down underneath the pavement for niche. And I've talked with Steve about all that.
Danielle, the only other thing I'd like to add about this punch list is that it is draft, and there may be some other things that I have not captured yet in this list. I do need to go through it with Nitch, and we'll probably have to walk the site. So I just would like to keep that in mind, that it is draft.
In that walk.
Of course. Yeah, and that might be something once you get done with the paving, we can just do one final site visit before winter to kind of come up with a complete list so that we're ready to go in the spring.
Yeah, and if there's items on here that Rhino's already said that they're going to do in the springtime, maybe we could just put in parentheses, you know, spring 2021, just so that it's clear.
Sure.
You know, I know that this is an all-encompassing punch list before road acceptance, but sometimes it helps us kind of keep track of a few of those things if we know it's automatically going to be in the spring. All right, is there any other questions or comments?
Can I ask a question? This is Carolyn again. I just wanted to ask, if the weather is not good for Thursday, Friday, for the pavement, is there an ultimate deadline, or are they going to be allowed to do it next week for the pavement of the street?
I don't know, but how is that?
The 15th is the deadline.
Yeah, Sunday. It is.
I mean, we'd have to give them, you know, vote to extend it.
Do you think that maybe you guys could, if we have good weather and it's, give it up to Erica and Niche to make a field decision? If we have nice 60-degree weather, we could, if by happens, we don't get to pave on Friday, which we want to get paved on Friday, obviously. But maybe if like next week it's a 60-degree day, we can pave it if we have a problem not paving on Friday.
I mean, I will say right now, I mean, the great thing about this week is we're so warm, so the temperatures are already there, which is great. It's just we do have the slight potential for rain. Next week, it's going to start dropping some. It's not crazy. It's, in the high 40s, 50s. I know we've talked about in the past trying to be careful, but obviously you don't want to.
I'm looking now, and the night temperatures are in the upper 20s. I don't know what
Even Saturday's a nice day.
If you look at Sunday and
Saturday looks beautiful.
Well, let me ask you a question. In fairness, okay, Century Mills Estates got paved on a Saturday. Why can't we ask if that's a possibility?
I mean, it's actually, now that we have a lot of the residents here, so typically we've shied away from allowing, Saturday work, just trying to respect the residents and their being home. Saturday's weather does look really favorable. If for some reason they weren't, and you're still before the 15th, if for some reason they weren't able to pave on Friday, would the residents be okay with allowing paving on Saturday, or is that something that they are not okay with?
This is the Co's at Lot 1. We're totally fine with that.
Lot 6,
Lot 1.
definitely. If we can get the pavement this year, we allow it to.
Lot 6 and 7.
Yeah, it looks like lot 11 chimed in on the chat. There.
11's okay.
I mean, everyone's home all the time, so I'm not sure that the weekend.
That's true. It's not too much difference between Friday and Saturday, but.
This is Brianna Kiernan from Lot 2, and we're totally fine with that as well.
Lot 2 is okay. Lot 6 is okay.
Lot 13, Larry. I don't know if you can.
Is anyone not okay? I guess is more of a.
Yeah, because it seems like the majority of you are okay. Lot 4 is okay. I'm not seeing anyone saying no. So given that.
I'll make a motion that we allow paving to happen on Saturday the 14th. Is that the date?
Yep, Saturday, November 14th.
Yeah. Saturday, November 14th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that contingent on Niche being available to supervise.
Oh, very good point, Mark. Very good point. Should we do a roll call for approval of paving on Saturday?
Roll call by the board. Danielle, Chair.
Yes, aye.
Eric Nyland.
Aye.
Mark Sprague.
Yes.
Peter Driscoll.
Aye.
And James Barr.
Aye.
All right.
Can we
approved unanimously? Sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question, because I don't want to plan for failure. Okay. So if indeed something goes wrong, Niche isn't available, we can't do it Saturday. I don't want to have to wait till the next planning board meeting to come back. So can we request that if Niche and Erica, well, I don't know if you want that responsibility, Erica, if Niche, who's an engineer, deems it acceptable to pave and it's after the 15th, can we get a vote on that as well? We're going to try and do this as soon as possible. Okay.
Well,
nobody wants.
I'm not comfortable just giving Niche a blank, basically blanket permission to approve when paving is done.
No, I guess what I was going to say is, I mean, typically, I know Niche has their maybe main inspector, but they might, they're pretty big companies. So if that person wasn't available, maybe they have another person available that could do it on a Saturday. So they potentially could be able to provide someone. I know, Erica, you need to contact them and ask them. But I think it could be reasonable that they could find someone for Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe you could ask them, Eric,
Yeah.
okay, if it comes from you, I think, okay, it's more meaningful.
Well, Niche must have been available when they did Century Mills, I believe.
They were. Yeah, we planned that ahead of time.
Yeah, it's a little short notice, but I think, Erica, if you can maybe find out, you may not be working tomorrow. I'm sure they are, but
That's all right. I will send an email either tonight or just first thing in the morning, and I'll be sure. And if I don't hear from them, I will call Steve tomorrow.
and just let them know. I mean, they're planning for Friday, but there's a potential for Saturday. I will say, Saturday the weather looks great. I don't see any issues with Saturday, so hopefully, if it doesn't happen Friday, it will happen Saturday.
Yeah, my only concern are the abutters at Danforth on Danforth Lane, but I'll let the police, the police chief know if this, that it was approved and allowed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
I think we'll do that. All right. I think with that, we're going to move on to the next one.
Thank you.
All
Light
right.
at the
Thank
end
you.
of the street. We missed something.
Oh, what's that?
Light at the end of the street. That hasn't been addressed.
The
light.
The light at the end of the street?
The pole light at the end of the street. Excuse me, at the entrance of the development. Remember, we've talked about this in other planning board meetings.
Yeah, it's on the
that
punch
is on the
list.
punch list.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, wait a minute. It's on the punch list. So what? We don't see it.
That means they need to still get it done, and that's part of what needs to be done for road acceptance.
Yeah,
I understand what it means. When is it going to be done? Is that more direct?
Sure.
I got to call Hudson Power.
But again, those, okay.
Okay, I can't answer for them.
I'm just saying these were addressed a long time ago.
Okay.
Danielle, I do have a comment related to that, just based on what Bob just said, though. The plan calls for an actual light fixture.
Right.
Bob, your comment makes it sound as though you're looking to have a street light added to the utility pole. So
Yes.
I guess there needs to be clarification on that, because the plans do call for an actual light fixture.
So if you remember, okay, and this is what I think, and I'd have to check with Brandon, okay, Dusham, but my recollection, do you remember that pole got moved? It got relocated. Okay. Okay. And
I don't remember, but okay. Yep.
Yeah. Well, okay. If you look at the what do you call when the plan starts? The existing conditions plan. It had to be relocated. Okay. That's what I believe. Okay. What it was going to be relocated with a new pole and a street light.
So I guess there's no new fixture going in. The pole is going to be relocated, or it was relocated?
It was relocated. It was in the middle of the road, if everybody remembered. Okay, they had to go around it.
Okay, so I guess Erica's question is there going to be a new light fixture installed,
I believe that it was going to be a street light.
On the pole.
On the pole.
Yeah, there is no detail for any lights on the plans. It's really ambiguous. Okay, this was for safety. So if it's a street light, it's a street light.
We're fine.
So
We just want to know about I think it would be nice, as you know, it gets dark at 4:30 and it's very dark. The entire street is dark. So the plans call for a light to be there. A light should be there.
Larry.
Yes.
Give me a call tomorrow. We'll call them together. Okay? So
sure.
We'll
I just want to know when the light's going in.
We'll put that to bed.
We talked about this in August. It's now November. I'm not, this is directed to everyone on the board. This was discussed in August.
It was, and I believe, and that's why it is on the punch
And now
list,
we're in
'cause it has-
November.
I'm on Zoom meeting.
and it hasn't been done.
Right.
So that's why it is still on the punch list, because it
Yeah.
needs to be done.
You can't even
Okay, thank
see the street when doing, I mean, it's not how a street like this should be. I will be happy to help whatever you want me to do, Bob.
Okay, just give me a call tomorrow.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'm going to
Thank you.
move on to the next one. Thank you. Eric, if you can bring up the agenda. All right, we're going to jump to Century Mill Estates. Andy, if you can provide an update on the remaining punch list items required as part of the road acceptance for phases 2 and 4. We don't need to go through all of them. I think there's really just 3 or 4 big items. And actually, maybe I can give in a little, or Erica, if you want to give a little bit of update with regard to, it seems like the 4 main items with regard to the road acceptance, most of the rest of them are pretty small, are with regard to the back taxes, the deed of zone 1 parcel, the affordable housing appraisal, and then there's also an outstanding payment for niches services. So with regard to the back taxes, is my understanding, Erica, if you want to just give a summary, I know you met with a tax collector and a treasurer on October 22nd, and it's my understanding that basically all communication with regarding the back taxes is going to be handled with the tax title attorney to kind of address this issue.
Excuse me, that is correct. Yeah, I received an email from the tax collector that I then forwarded to the board, and I forwarded it to Andy. And that's essentially, the sort of the conclusion of the email is that it's being handled by the tax title attorney.
Okay. I was going to go on to the next one. Sorry, my dog just came in here. Any comments on that, or we're going to jump right on over to zone 1 parcel? Basically, when we had last spoken, or when we last discussed this, I know, Andy, you had mentioned, is Andy on here, by the way?
Yep.
Yes. Hi, Andy. Okay, I see you. I think when we had last spoken, we talked about the zone 1 parcel, and you had mentioned in 2014 when it was deeded over, there was some questions about it and why. We went back, or Erica went back and did some research, and she found that there was actually multiple emails and discussions that the town had, I believe with you, that discussed that the town could not take ownership of the land due to the liability of owning a public water supply system. And that I think even once that was discussed, I think there was communication between your attorney and the planning board to try to make sure that was removed. So that's my understanding of the history of why this came about back in 2013-14. We did have Erica reach out to the Bolton Conservation Trust recently, though, just to ask again if they would consider, owning the zone 1 parcel. My understanding is that they said no, again, due to the same liability of not being able to own the zone 1 for the public water supply system due to the liability for the town. So I believe basically what needs to happen is it needs to be deeded over to the homeowners association at some point. Erica, is that summarized?
That is correct. And I followed up again with the town administrator, and that is his understanding as well. It was due to liability and the town not wanting to take on the responsibility of the public water supply.
Okay. So, Andy, I don't know if you have additional comments on that. But I think that's where basically the town stands with regard to the Zone 1 parcel.
The land is owned by me. I don't know. The town doesn't have the right, I don't think, to tell me to deed it to somebody else. So, I mean, I don't think it needs to be deeded to anybody. Just be a parcel.
Okay, is that
This is the first
correct,
time
Eric?
that I might be required to deed the land to someone. Heard of that before.
I don't think we're saying you have to deed it to anybody in particular. I think the town is saying that the Zone 1 portion of the open space would not be accepted by the town, and the Conservation Trust has indicated a similar desire not to accept that, not to accept the liability associated with the Zone 1. So, you can maintain ownership, you can deed it to the homeowners association or the water company or, whoever it is that's appropriate. But, I think we're just letting you know that the Zone 1 portion would not be, would not be something the town would look at, would.
I want to be very, very clear that when I accommodated the town, no one said that they were going to start taxing me on this land. That's where, to me, that was deceptive. Because my approvals, as Erica points out on her Century Mill Estates timeline, is that the approvals were for 100 acres. And that that the public water supply was there by easement. And so when the town said, well, it was something to do about a walking trail, as I recall, nobody said, well, yeah, can you do this? And then we're going to charge you. So, that's not fair. That the people that live there are going to end up having to pay that expense as part of their water bill forever. And I've been
All right, well, I think.
The fact that town doesn't have anybody to give this to me to administer or own this other than the Bolton Conservation Trust, this little piece of land, it was approved that way. But in any event, I don't really care about the ownership of the land. I care about a necessary expense for the residents in the form of real estate taxes. We went from a piece of land that was non-taxable, and you made it taxable. So,
I think it was always taxable because it was a public water supply.
No, it wasn't, Danielle. It was part of the open space. It was in the water supply was there by easement. It was non-taxable. You follow me?
I think that was your plan, but I don't think that when the town looked at it, that's what we wanted to do.
It was more than my plan. It was approved that way.
Okay, well, we did try to do some research just to get a better understanding of what happened in 2013-14. That's what happened, what the change was. We're here now. We did reach back out to the town. We reached to ask them. They are not able to take ownership of it due to the liability that we just spoke of. So I think that's where we're at right now. So I guess.
Why not keep it non-taxable land? It wasn't taxable. I don't understand.
That's not something that we can Yeah, I think you'd have to apply for an abatement or try to get the selectmen to declare it as, non-taxable parcel or something, but that's beyond the scope of what we can do on this board.
I understand. Just making the point, that's all.
The point is heard, and whether or not we agree, it's out of our jurisdiction.
I understand.
Okay.
So the third one is, I guess, Andy, have you been able to get an appraisal for the affordable housing piece that we've talked about?
I called the appraiser today and got an update, and not really sure what the reason is, but he's still months out. So he gave me other names. I will contact them tomorrow.
So when do you anticipate being able to have that appeal done?
I can give Erica an update next week. I just found this out today.
Okay.
I don't know whether it may be COVID related. I mean, he did mention that the time involved to do appraisals, I guess, is longer now, what he said. So just repeating what he said. They're only using their office once in a while.
Okay. Obviously the sooner the better, just so that we can get it in, review it, and then because that will have a little bit of a process with it.
Yeah.
The other things, there are some outstanding payments for niche. Erica, if you want to just kind of go over that.
Yeah, so Andy, I had sent you a request for additional funding for the peer review account the beginning of October. I did receive updated invoices from Niche Engineering, and I don't have enough money to cover the invoices from September, so we are in the negative. It's roughly $3,800. I believe I sent you the updated ledger with their invoice. If I haven't, please let me know and I'll send it to you again. So that money needs to be recouped so that we can pay the most recent invoice.
Okay. I did bring the account up to a balance of $10,000 before we paved. So that means for Niche to watch the pavement go down, $13,800. It's ridiculous. Have that big of an expense for that. I don't know. I mean,
Are there other items that we want to?
We're in the business, $13,800 for observations.
I don't have their observations right in front of me. I don't know how many times they were out, but. Are there other items, Erica, that we want to go over on this draft partial road acceptance punch list?
The roads, I mean, in our case, the roads look very pretty. The back of the berms has been seeded and backed up with loam. Work-wise, we're in good shape. Big things that need to get done are the plans and so forth. And perhaps, Erica, can you send me an email with are there deadlines involved in advance of when you need these items?
Yeah, essentially, when you look at our subdivision rules and regs and the part that talks about road acceptance, the as-built plans and the street acceptance plans should be submitted as soon as they can be. So once you have construction completed, your monuments are installed, I would have Ducharme and Dillis go out there and finish it and then get it back to us so that there is enough time for Niche to review. And that, also it needs to be presented to the Board of Selectmen for the street acceptance plans for road acceptance. So there is sort of a process involved. So my answer to that would be, I would start working on that, you know, if construction is completed.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Questions?
So, I mean, if you work back from town meeting, you know, we need everything in time in soon enough so that, you know, so that us and the selectmen can make a recommendation for town meeting. Which I'm not sure, Erica, when that,
Usually is it like February? February, we say like end of February? Isn't that kind of?
Correct. I think the process sort of begins in December. I think I need to get our town administrator sort of a list of the articles we anticipate bringing forward. And then at one point, you know, further along, we then get to the point where we present it to the Board of Selectmen. So we would need to be, you know, we would want to know at that point. And that's typically, you know, January, February, somewhere in there.
When is town meeting?
May,
It's
right? First Monday.
First Monday, typically. Yep.
With that, are there any other additional questions or discussions that we need to go over?
There are some minor construction things that still need to be done, like the street light at the entrance, but Andy and I can certainly talk about that offline, so.
Okay, so I think with that, unless the board has any additional questions or anything, we can move on to the next item.
I'm done. I'm done. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a
All right, thank you. So Eric, if you want to bring up the town meeting or potential town meeting.
Yes. So what I did actually, and I just sent it to the board today, so the board may not have had a chance to look at it, but this is, I had done some research on neighboring towns for accessory apartment bylaws. So I thought this is something that we could go through tonight, potentially, if the board wanted to.
I didn't get a chance to look too much into it yet, but
I mean, I can just kind of give a brief overview. So I essentially looked at, yep.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I pulled from the various towns near Bolton. So Acton, Berlin, Carlisle, Harvard, Lancaster, Lincoln, Littleton, Lunenburg, Manard, Stowe, and that's as far as I've gotten. And I think that's a good list. I think this is a good representation of similar towns or towns that might be a little more urban than we are. But certainly I think a good representation. And I think once you read through this, you'll see that there's some consistent themes in each of the bylaw in terms of, what's allowed by right, what's allowed by special permit, the accessory apartments requiring to be on the same lot, obviously, that the owner of the premises needs to occupy either the primary residence or the accessory apartment. There's limitations on square footage for the accessory apartment. Most of them call out a maximum of 2 bedrooms. The exterior of the accessory apartment needs to be consistent with a single family home. Several of the rural communities indicated that only one driveway or curb cut is allowed per lot. So just because you have an accessory apartment, you can't then add a second curb cut, an additional parking space. Most of them do not allow for the accessory apartment and the primary dwelling unit to be condos. So a lot of the bylaws call that out. You know, and obviously for the towns that don't have public water and sewer, they often include language in there about the Board of Health, you know, providing approval for the accessory apartment, making sure that the well and the wastewater treatment facility have capacity to handle it. They call out the number of residents that can live in it. So
do they
those are the
allow-
consistent themes.
For, I guess, you know, speaking, and we can touch, I think there's a couple of those items, majority of them I think make sense, but there's a couple of my questions on of what we would want to do. But just thinking about utilities, would we want, obviously, you know, creating an existing or having enough capacity within your existing system is great. If they didn't, would they then be allowed to put in their own separate well and septic system, or is that something that's a lot more complicated and we don't want to allow? I'm just throwing thoughts out here.
When you start looking at all of the offsets
Yeah.
between septic systems and between wells and septics, I think that would
Very good.
it would be easier to upgrade your existing system to add additional capacity if you needed to.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe it's not even an issue that we need to worry about. So, but I was just wondering, do we want to mandate or require that it be done within the existing system and that not a brand new second system? I don't know. I'm just throwing, or not even limited at all, because like you said, Mark, that there's going to be enough setbacks and site constraints that would dictate it anyways.
Unless you've got a huge lot that could support, you know,
a lot of stuff. Can we go? Yeah, that's probably a good point. So we may not even need to do it. Eric, can you go back? The one, I mean, the couple things that I thought that absolutely makes sense is one, obviously no additional curb cuts for an accessory apartment. You know, they would have to bring the pavement over to wherever they wanted from the existing driveway. The one that I wanted to ask upon, all right, so minimum 2-bedroom, gross floor area of apartment cannot exceed the lesser of % of gross floor area, primary dwelling, or 800 square feet. You know, I'm just reading Acton. I think those are some pretty specific requirements. What do, like, those are some things I'd like to have the board discuss upon and see what, you know, what we think makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, all the different towns have different numbers there. You know, some are, you know, but I mean, the point is, you know, you don't want to allow what kind of to be unlimited.
Yeah,
yeah. Because then you just have a second house on the lot. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. I think the intent there is to make sure that the accessory apartment remains incidental and secondary to the primary dwelling. So
yeah. I see what you're saying. So,
but I also think
that we might want to think about, you know, different numbers, whether it's attached or detached. You know, like if you had a detached 2-car garage, and you wanted to finish a second floor on that, that might be a different, you know, a different amount. Or if we go back to you know, Brian's proposal, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you know, where they're finishing off the top of their garage barn thing.
Yeah.
You know, is that going to exceed those numbers? But, you know, short of building a wall to kind of block off, you know, part of the second floor, you know, is that quite what you know, does that make sense? But I think that's the intention behind the square footage limitations.
I mean, I would say, could you put a maximum of no more than 50% of the total usable floor area of the primary residence?
I mean, again, I mean, it's you. I mean, you could, you know, but then, you know, somebody has
there's some huge houses in town.
You know, if somebody has one of the big, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 square foot houses, you want a 2,000 square foot accessory apartment.
Right.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you want to, I get it. So you want to put both a maximum square footage plus so kind of like what Harvard did. Harvard said shall not occupy a maximum of 1,200 square feet, but no more than, a third of the total usable floor area or something along those lines. So maybe those
Right,
aren't
yeah.
our numbers, but that same requirement of a square footage plus a percentage.
Yeah, all of the towns have something, and you also don't want, you don't on a 1,000 square foot house, you don't want, 800 square foot apartment or 1,200 square foot apartment, or something like that. So I think you kind of want to have both a percentage and a cap.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it makes sense to do both.
So Erica, there's a couple of the towns in Lancaster, I think Acton, they have requirements in there that you need to have been, that you need to have occupied the residence for 5 years prior to. What's the rationale there?
That's a really good question. And I don't really know the answer to that.
I mean, if I was building a house and I wanted to build an in-law apartment, if I do, and move into town.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not.
The only thing I can think of, Mark, and certainly I could reach out to some of these towns to better understand why, they've put limitations on it. But my guess would be is that they want residents to establish a permanent residency. They don't want someone coming in and that's my only.
With that, I would say I still don't agree with that because would it be advantageous, like if I found something place in Lancaster and I could do something for my in-laws or maybe my, or someone, but have to be there for 5 years, that would definitely be a deterrent. So I would say for that one, we'd want to leave that out of our bylaws.
I completely agree.
That was kind of my thoughts on that too. I was just curious if there's some rationale that we were overlooking there. Some explanation for it.
Is there
I completely agree.
Is there any difference of taxes because it is an apartment and not a primary dwelling? Anything like that?
I don't know. I don't know how it would be taxed.
Well, it becomes livable space, so it'd be taxed as such.
Square. Yeah.
Okay. Be like, I would assume it would be like adding it in addition.
Right.
So I'm seeing a lot of, basically it looks like Harvard's 1,200, Lincoln is 1,200, Littleton, I can't see what Littleton is.
I saw a 700. And, I mean, it's a huge. What would be the size of like a 3-car garage? Like 1,000 square feet or so. Like the top of that. Something like that.
Oh yeah, Stowe is 700. That seems small to me, but I mean
you're looking at like 1,500 square feet.
Is roughly probably 30 feet wide and
50 feet long.
Well, 30 wide and 20 deep, probably.
And maybe that's how they came up with the 12, because 1,200 definitely seems to be a consistent theme throughout a lot of the towns. The max of 1,200 feet. So maybe they assumed a 2-car garage or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think a 2 or 3-car garage. Yeah,
I think a 2-car garage, maybe 1,200. 3 cars, that 1,500. So it's kind of right. Does that seem like right in there?
30 by 50.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I mean, I think Stowe 700 is too small. I wouldn't want to limit it to 700 square feet. I think that's very difficult. But
Erica, I see that a lot of them have special permit through the ZBA. Why would it go to the ZBA versus planning board if we're creating a bylaw for it?
It honestly just depends on that particular town and how they do their permitting. A lot of communities use their zoning appeals for various special permits, for site plan review. So it just really is dependent on the town. In Bolton, it's through the planning. Most special permits are through the planning board. So
we would do it through the planning board.
Of course, yeah. It's just on how they structure. That particular town is structured.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other things that we could also take a look at and kind of vet, I did see that some of the communities, like particularly Carlisle, you know, when you actually read their full bylaw, they really are geared towards getting affordable housing and housing for like seniors. So they do have some caveats in there about making the accessory apartments affordable per state requirements. And so that might be something that we want to at least take a look at to see if that could be something that could work here.
So are they talking deed restricted or just?
Yeah, deed restricted. And the way that I had read it, let me make sure I'm looking at the right community. There was one community that allowed for accessory apartments to be added to pre-existing non-conforming structures, but they'd have to be deed restricted. So it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll allow you to do this, but in order to do that, you need to make it affordable. So it was like one added little benefit. I think it's Carlisle. I think it's Carlisle.
Yeah, it's Carlisle. It's right there. And then they also give a kicker that you're allowed a bigger apartment if it's deeded affordable.
Yeah, exactly. So
You're
they gave
allowed
little
50% instead of
bonuses.
35.
Yeah, so that's something we could think about too.
I could see adding some type of bonus if you make it deed restricted, but I wouldn't want to limit it to that.
Oh,
So I
no.
think it's an option.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it was an option. Like if you get, like as Erica was saying, if it was non-conforming and you couldn't, make it, then you could do the affordable thing. So it's not, you could still do a normal detached, accessory apartment, if all the requirements, but I think it was saying you could also do an affordable one, maybe get a little more.
And currently for Bolton, we do allow for in-law apartments that are attached as of right.
Yep.
So I assume we wouldn't want to change that. I think that's a great option for people that want to do something attached, not have to go through that special permit process.
Exactly.
Like I would
And that's-
recommend that we keep that as it is.
And I think Harvard said the same thing. If it's a attached, it's by right. If it's detached, it's a special permit. So I would think we'd want kind of that same thing as well. And then no condominium form of ownership between primary dwelling and apartment.
Yeah, I don't think we would want that for just any property that would seek an accessory apartment. I think that could be a discussion when we start talking about making any amendments to the barn bylaw and how we can entice people to use that bylaw. That might be something that we could approach there. We obviously have to really think about that. But I think that just the sheer number of properties that have historical accessory structures on it are going to be much more limited. So, you're not going to have condominiums popping up everywhere where, I don't think we'd want to do that here. So, but I think there are benefits to that, if we wanted to go that route in terms of creating diversified housing, more affordable housing, that could certainly be an option. But I would, again, suggest we direct that to the barn bylaw and not this one.
And we're just talking, I was going to say, we're just talking single unit, detached. We're not talking about multi-user or anything.
Correct.
I think that we want to definitely be clear on that too in here, right? That this is a single unit. I think, do you think it's necessary to limit the number of bedrooms?
No, I think probably just square footage in single unit. I mean,
that's what I was thinking is, you limit the square footage and, obviously they need to, still meet the, kitchens, bathrooms and Board of Health requirements and stuff like that. And then let them do it however else they want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, families have multiple bedrooms. So if it's.
Yeah, I guess I don't see anything wrong with having a 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot accessory.
I would say divide it up how you want to divide it up. As long as you're meeting, so I would say if you have 3 bedrooms, then it's more impact on the septic.
Yes, So obviously they would need to make sure they're
Right.
still meeting the Board of Health requirements and that their system can even, that's probably gonna be the limiting factor is
Right.
what can their system hold or be upgraded to? And that's gonna limit it right there.
Eric, in our current bylaws, we have in-law apartments defined or allowed.
Well, actually, I think we call them accessory apartments, but we only allow them attached as of right now. I think we
Okay.
say accessory apartment. We give, I think, maybe a couple of names, in-law apartments, but only attached. So we would need to probably look at that when we're creating either an additional section that allows for the detached, or we create a whole separate bylaw. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to figure out exactly how that should read within the bylaw.
Yeah, and and make sure that what we're looking at lines up with, or we amend that bylaw to line up with what we want here.
Of course, yep.
Yeah, no, I think this is, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
No, I was just gonna say, I noticed as well that some of the communities did not allow the special permit to be transferable to new owners. So that's something else that the board will have to think about, whether or not, you want to have sort of a closer review of these where, if it's a new owner, they have to come before you again. So that's all that kind of stuff we can think about.
I don't know if I would, I don't know.
I don't think it needs to come. I think maybe if you're buying a place that has an in-law apartment and then then you have to come back before the board to, carry it through, that would probably.
That would be a big deterrent.
Yeah, I mean, some of the towns do have restrictions that at least one of the people in the apartment has to be related or a caregiver sort of thing. So in that case, I guess you'd kind of have to come back and recertify that if somebody knew about the house, they'd have to come in and certify that whoever's occupying the apartment still meets those criteria.
That's very true. Yeah. Where I don't think we'd want to do that. I mean, I just think it's beneficial to sort of give flexibility. I couldn't imagine us only allowing family members or caregivers.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
going through them, there's a bunch of the towns that had restrictions like that. So. Yeah.
And then the other thing is whether, I see this as an opportunity for residents to also, if they don't have a family member or whatever, have it be a rental, a place that they can rent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you can, Eric, if you can kind of go through and pick out the ones that we kind of just talked about that we definitely want to include. And then obviously just keep any of the highlighted ones that we still maybe need to discuss. I know the square footage is one we're probably going to need to kind of come back and get some additional thoughts. It'd also be good to ask the housing, the people that are putting the housing plan together of what they think with regard to some of these square footage numbers, that we would be proposing.
I can reach out to Mark O'Hagan, the chair,
and
see if he has any recommendations as a developer.
That would be great.
I mean, I kind of like the idea, and I can pass this by him about comparing it to the accessory garage, detached garage, because I think a lot of people can visualize that and understand what that means. So I think that could be helpful at town meeting, being able to sort of, create a picture for people to say, okay, this is what we're allowing for. This is not above and beyond what you would see on a normal property. So I kind of like that. I'll mention that to him and see what he thinks.
So, sorry, Danielle, would we want, I don't know, say limit it to like an above the garage, but do we want like a separate cottage built, or do we limit it to one floor if it's like a cottage, or, we don't want like a 2-story type thing being built?
I wouldn't want to limit it, because I know with when they came last meeting with regard to the garage, the barn bylaw, And that was that 3-car garage with the second floor. So they were gonna still be renovating that top floor.
Right, so if it's a garage, it would be a top floor. I'm just saying, like, if they're building a new standalone structure, you know, and like Erica was just saying, we're visualizing a garage sort of above garage, you know, do we want, I guess the square footage would determine that then. And I'm just saying, like, do we put some type of limits on the type of structures that are built?
I think what plays into that more than anything is more just the aesthetics and appearance of it. Like if you have a 1-story house, I don't think we then want them to create a 2-story accessory structure behind it. Like, so I think it has a lot to do with just the visualization of it and something that can be vetted by the board, you know, per each special permit. Where if you have a very large 4,000 square foot home that's 3 stories large, it may not be a terrible thing to allow them to have something that's 2-story in the back. I'm just kind of making that up.
Yeah,
But
I think it would look better probably to have a 2-story.
Yeah. So I think that'll play into it.
Do we get DRB involved in this, or is that too onerous?
I think it's too onerous. I mean, we don't allow for, the DRB does not review, you know, residential right now because this is like individual homeowners. This isn't a developer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was just trying to, you know, just what you were saying, Erica, it's, you know, have some small little ranch and then have this bigger house that, you know, is whatever, 1,200, 1,500 square feet, whatever we allow next to it. Just,
and I think we can take care of that in the bylaw itself. I don't think we necessarily need the DRB to do it. I think we can certainly put some language in there to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bullet on the thing we're looking at right now, you know, exterior appearance must retain single family residence appearance. Maybe that's not the best wording, but something along those lines.
Yeah, and you could say single family appearance and also consistent with existing dwelling, like, you know, just add that extra.
And the neighborhood, or, you know, something like that,
yeah, something that gives the special permit, you know, room to work, I guess.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to that would be great, Erica, if you can start kind of pulling that together. We'll relook at it again afterwards.
Hi, Danielle.
Yes.
Hi. So this is Paul and Susan. We've been through these meetings, and we're one of those stakeholders that is interested in this. And I just wanted to provide 2 comments, one a question and one a statement. When I looked at a bunch of the bylaws in local towns and talked to some of the people who are planners in towns and looked at their websites, what I found is, you know, there's a lot of variability, and there's really 2 reasons why these kind of bylaws happen. One of them is for the reason that Erica has talked about, which is housing flexibility. And the other one is to allow for flexibility in buildings that already exist and that potentially would make sense to repurpose. And that's one of, you know, when you look and you say, oh, the house must be, or the detached building must be older than 10 years or 15 years. That's a reflection of that sort of requirement, and also to prevent builders from, you know, who are clever from, you know, kind of trying to condoize or, you know, sneak in a second house on one lot. So what I found is there's a bunch of reasons for why towns have done the requirements, you know, put in the requirements they did, and it would be worthwhile for, as you had mentioned earlier, for Erica to look up and kind of understand the sensitivities of a few of why these requirements are what they are. The second thing I was just curious about is, you know, again, because we're a stakeholder in this, is when you guys do put a potential bylaw in place, do you have a sort of schedule or a plan of how that happens between like now and town meeting? Or does it just sort of kind of come together? Because I could foresee this as being somewhat controversial.
Oh, yes. So I will tell you, yes, so this is something that absolutely could be controversial. So our plan is to kind of, one, figure out what we as a board would want to put together, what we think makes sense to pull from different towns. Once we have a draft of that, we're going to want to, as I was just mentioning to Erica, to reach out to the housing authority just to get their input as well. We're going to want to try to, we'll have a public meeting where, I mean, potentially we'll even do one. I know with other potential controversial bylaws we've done, we've tried to have a public meeting earlier on in the process to get feedback from people, to hear what they have to say, especially those that may oppose this. So that way we can try to incorporate any of those comments or questions that they may have about that. I don't know, what's our time? Oh, here we go. What's the kind of time?
Actually, they've moved it up. Typically, it's been December when I've needed to get them the list of articles. They've moved it up till to next week. So I will get that's okay. I will get a draft list to Dawn next week. I think we have a good idea of what that is based on our last meeting and discussing sort of that potential list. So
Well, and then also, it's always publicly noticed when we're working on it, but there is a public hearing that is put in the newspaper and that's usually around February.
Yep. So the last day this year will be February 17th to hold the hearing.
Well, my question was really just a sort of a backhand polite way to say that you're going to have to do some planning for this because there's some complexity here. Not the easiest, one of those bylaws that passes through.
Do you mind me asking? You keep saying you're a stakeholder. Is that you're interested in getting a detached accessory apartment, or?
Yeah, I think Eric wasn't here with the hearing that you discussed. They have an existing accessory building that actually was zoned for commercial. When they bought it, so they would like.
Are they on Harvard Road?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But they would like to convert that to, an accessory apartment. And right now our bylaws just don't allow it because it's detached and it's, several, it's not feasible to make it attached. So that's where kind of this. I mean, there's been other people in the past too that have approached Erica as well. But this one is particular that they are trying to see if this passes, then they would potentially be allowed to use their existing building as an accessory apartment. Does that summarize that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I was just wondering.
Yep. Okay, well, it sounds like Erica's doing her thing and you guys have got it under control. So, we can just shut up and let you guys do your stuff.
No, I guess I'd like to ask, with what we've kind of shown and kind of discussed, did you have any questions or comments on some of the items that we were just talking about, since you mentioned obviously are looking at this as well?
Well, the only thing that was talked about that, gave us a little alarm was our situation was there was a building that was built for a commercial purpose and, was controversially, 20 something years ago approved by the town, and we don't want to use it for a commercial purpose anymore. And we don't think the town does, but it's a 1,500 square foot building. So what I have seen in a variety of town bylaws is that, consistent with what you all were talking about, there was a limitation in most towns based upon either a square footage in combination with the percentage of the primary residence. But many of the towns also provided a little flexibility by allowing a bigger building by, a review by the town. Right, so that it would go, I guess, in front of the
building, the planning board or the zoning board of appeals to say, oh, it could be as big as this if, subject to acceptance. And that would, work for us and other people. I mean, if you look at, for example, the barn bylaw, what the barn bylaw does is it doesn't limit the size of the building because the barn is what the barn is, right? So you're not going to say, oh, I can only use so many square foot of the barn that already exists. Whereas the current bylaws for an accessory apartment limit the size because the assumption is made that you're going to add that structure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I would say for any proposed structure, we would want to be very clear on the square footage and the size that we would want to allow. But maybe we want to look at if there's potentially existing structures, providing some additional flexibility for the planning board to review.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, sorry. I mean, and if you or Erica want to know the examples of what those towns are, we can provide them to you, but it's not, there's a few of them that do that.
Yeah, the biggest issue is just getting the wording right to kind of allow existing structures, but not allow somebody to build a structure, let it sit for a year, and then say, okay, now it's pre-existing, and now I can blow by the size restrictions.
Yeah, that's exactly a very good point, Mark. But definitely something I think we could explore. I mean, like you said, yours was built 20 years ago, so there's clearly a history there. When it was done.
Said, that's when we had talked to folks in Lincoln. That's kind of their thought was there were existing structures and they wanted to provide flexibility as opposed to the housing issue for people there. So it's two reasons why people have done these kind of bylaws.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point to bring up, and I appreciate you doing that because I think, again, we're coming at this new and wanting to, understand, things from everyone's perspective. But I also agree, I think you're right, we're going to need to do a little bit of outreach once we kind of have a draft of this to push it out to the town to see what they think, because I don't think this is going to be an easy one to get through.
I also agree with Erica that there's some complexity because if you look at the town bylaws that talk about one, residence per lot, you have to be very careful that how you structure it so that you aren't in conflict with some of the other bylaws. So it's not the easiest thing to put together. Yeah. So I wish you guys well.
I think is your structure considered a barn or no?
No.
No. So I think it probably is a good idea potentially to say that new structures can be X maximum and existing could be Y. Maybe existing could be 1,500, whereas new are 1,200 or 1,000. Just so we don't have, I don't know, we have some type of limitations on new structures being built.
I think we definitely want to be specific on anything new, but we should, Eric, if we can look at Lincoln or others and just see how they worded it for potentially existing structures, that might be worth exploring.
Certainly, yeah. Lincoln was one of the ones that I had pulled, so I will take a closer look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it might be as simple as, like kind of like what Eric said, 1,200 square feet, or detached pre-existing buildings as of the date of the bylaw or something. Mm-hmm. Just to, if it's existing when we pass the bylaw, then the size is what it is, but going forward, the size limits, apply.
Yeah, that sounds, sort of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a good idea, Mark. I like that kind of wording it that way, because then it's all dated based on if the bylaw gets approved, from that year on.
Yeah.
What's existing.
I think I would take it one step further too for the existing structures to make sure that they're still incidental and secondary to the primary, because if there's an existing structure that's huge and completely
Yeah,
overwhelms
agreed.
the primary, then that might be something that we don't want to do. So
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's
I
true.
agree. That's good. Yeah.
Right. Or we allow a higher limit on pre-existing or something. But yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. This is
All right.
the joys of crafting a bylaw here.
I know. All right. Do we want to, so we just talked about updating the accessory apartment bylaw. Obviously, we have potentially 3 road acceptance bylaws. I think the barn bylaw update is, we'll need to do that with the accessory apartment bylaw. We already said we were going to move the open space kind of into the following year. The driveway bylaw, let's still table that till we kind of get the DPW on board and we can set up a meeting with the current DPW. The light pollution bylaw, this was brought up with a resident, was that last town meeting, right?
Yeah.
And basically just, and I didn't really think that this was necessarily an issue because so much of Bolton is kind of dark sky, but I guess it was potentially, we don't have a light pollution bylaw. And the question was, do we want to draft a bylaw that would prevent residents of, putting big lights up, on their property that clearly spill over to someone else's property. I think it's a good idea. I don't know, what do people, I guess, what do people on the board feel like for this year?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't there at the last meeting, but I watched this part of the meeting. Yeah, we definitely have to look a lot into the details. I mean, I could see something like just a lot, above some certain lumens, you need some down, what is it, full cutoff or something,
Yeah. So I guess the question is, we could come up with this bylaw, but one of the questions that kind of came up was how would it be enforced? So say that we say you can't have less than a half a foot candle, across someone's property line, but how does that then get enforced? Like, how do you know what a half a foot candle is without doing, light survey out there? I know he mentioned Stowe does have a bylaw. I know you gotta give them this list by next Wednesday, right? So we can't even, can we even explore this?
Well, we can certainly put it on the list and then I can just,
take it off if we want.
Don always says to me, as long as we're taking off and not adding on, he's okay with it. So I think if we want to try to do a full comprehensive list and then we just kind of pick away at it, that's fine. We just don't want to be adding to it.
Well, then let's keep it on. What I'd like to, can you get a copy of Stowe's light pollution bylaw? And maybe let's just review it, because if it's simple enough and makes sense, it might be worth doing, just because it's always better to have something in place versus nothing. Because if there are instances in town where people are having residents that are using, we have specific requirements for, obviously, for subdivisions and commercial buildings and all that other type of stuff, and they have to have cutoff lights. But for single family homes, you could potentially put a spotlight, up, and it could absolutely be going way over, a neighbor's property line and lighting their area up. So and considering what dark sky of a town Bolton is, it might be something worthwhile to put in place. I know what.
All right. So for the next meeting, I will pull the Stowe's bylaw and we can take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay.
Danielle, do you want me to include the driveway bylaw or take that off for this year?
No, I think it's good. I think we can still include it, especially now that you said a DPW has been hired and they're going to start next week. So I think we could potentially still meet with them and kind of go over it. I mean, I think it's small enough. It's really just that one.
It's really simple. It's really just getting everyone on the same page, making sure that this board and the DPW feel the same way. So that one's a really simple one if we move forward with it. So the only thing I'm going to take off this list then is the OSRD, because obviously we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And, and then the road acceptances, obviously, if
We'll
if
keep
the
'em on
construction
and
doesn't get
hope that we
done and
can
move
go out
forward,
there.
then we'll take it off. So.
Erica, actually, I have a question. I don't know if this is a bylaw or not, but, and I brought this up before with like the barn bylaw special permit, and I know we have like one set fee of $500, but could we have? It seems kind of excessive for like the barn bylaw. I don't know if we want to adjust that or even the special permit for going for bed and breakfast. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we could revisit that. I believe that once we vet out what we want and the research that we do related to that, I think it has to go before Board of Selectmen, but we could certainly, I don't think it's a terrible idea to maybe split up the fees based on if it's commercial versus if it's residential. Right now, it's just all special permits, but maybe that's not the way we want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, so the special permit for Brian's barn, I mean,
Yeah.
$500 seems excessive to me,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think splitting up residential versus commercial might be a good idea.
Yeah, cut it in half or something.
Yeah.
So would that be a bylaw, or is that something we recommend to select?
Correct. That's not a bylaw. That's just something that we have to research, kind of put together not a report, but something to give to the Board of Selectmen, and then they can review it and approve it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can look at that. All right. If no one else has any additional comments.
I was only half joking about the Cape Cod berms. Is that something for town meeting, or is that just our rules?
I would love to change it to vertical granite curb, but when I suggested that, I think it was like a year or so ago, there was pushback from whenever we had that meeting with the developers, because we were talking about, I don't know if it was affordable housing, whatever, but I brought up the fact of that most towns require, granite curb or concrete curb or vertical, whatever, for curbing. But I got pushback from the developers because of the cost. I would think the DPW would be behind us though, because Cape Cod berm consistently gets wrecked, and it's just, you've seen it, we've seen it. So I would 100% be willing to revise that, but last time it was brought up, we kind of got pushback.
I'm with you on that, Danielle. I agree.
I think the previous DPW director didn't like granite because it dinged up his plows.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mark.
But
all right, then maybe we want to consider that.
But he's now retired, so. But I mean, the Cape Cod berms just seem to be a problem in every development. So, but Erica, is that something for town meeting, or is that just our internal?
Subdivision rules and regs. We certainly can start working on those this winter.
Okay.
I think it's great that we update them consistently. I mean, we've been doing that, and it just makes it so much more dynamic. I think it's great. So we can look at the curbing. I think if we look at the curbing, we then have to look at the design again for the cul-de-sac, because that has been an issue in the past. We want to make sure that if they can't mount it, it's appropriate for plowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And we also now have a couple of the islandless cul-de-sacs in place, so we can go and take a look at those and see if we like that look, or we want to go back to the islands, or whatever.
Yep.
And it'd be good to get kind of I know, yeah, that's a good thing too, because I know aesthetically it may not be as nice not having the islands, but I'm sure maintenance wise it's a heck of a lot easier to maintain in the winter time, and they're just can move all the snow out of the way. So it'd be good, good to check those out and just get some feedback from people of what they think.
Yeah.
But all right, do we have meeting minutes to approve?
I do, but I have not sent them to the board yet, so it's up to you.
Okay,
I can either
we'll do
pull
that.
them up, or we can move it to the next meeting. It's up to you.
Let's just move it. We'll just move it to the next meeting.
Okay.
So with that, does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.